Welcome to Diverse Speech Weekly Podcast. Here we go. Our new member, Ethan Moore, from all the way from Northern Ireland. Ethan, how are you doing?
Not so bad. How are you guys?
Good.
Amazing and cold.
Fantastic. Yeah, of course.
Not so cold, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Skye, I would like you to take the lead and tell our listeners what the topic is for this week's podcast, please.
Of course. Well, of course, everyone in the music industry will be aware that live events have just not been the same. For the last 2 years, it's just been an absolute roller coaster. I guess for the last few months, things are slowly starting to come back with some small live events. But now that there's a new variant and things are going back to how they used to be, I mean, it's just an absolute roller coaster and nightmare. So this topic is just us talking about how everything's been affected with live events and how we're coming back into it.
Yeah.
So since I've been away from England for the last few weeks now, I've read a few news here and there on Instagram and blah blah blah. Friends sending me some news in the group chat. So I'm kind of being informed unwillingly because I don't want to know about it. But as I mentioned earlier as well, this topic has got a different kind of trigger to me. It triggers me a different way. I don't let people or things trigger me. This BS, however, does trigger me on the next level. So what is the case right now? I've heard something that basically is something like you have to put a mask on when you're traveling underground, overground, and public transportation, all kinds of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, on the underground, I think, underground and the trains, I think, and normal rail lines as well, you have to wear a mask.
Buses.
And buses as well. But to be honest with you, not a lot of Londoners are doing that. It's a very stubborn country, so.
Good. I like that. Ethan, what about in Northern Ireland?
No, it's the same over here. Very little people are wearing their masks, we're told to, but people are fed up at this point. It's been like 2 years. People don't want to wear masks anymore. Like, I get it. I wear mine most of the time, but even then I'm sick of wearing a mask too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
so
I don't know, man. I mean, I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day as well. There's a chart. Not a chart, but it's like a meme kind of thing. And it shows people working at very high risk, potential death kind of caused places, such as mining, oil rigging and stuff like that. And they're showing all kinds of high security masks people are wearing, right? Mm-hmm. And then here is the dear friends, the deadliest virus of all times. Right, we're wearing a fucking. I'm not sorry. 2 cents worthy of face masks to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
How does that make sense?
There is no logic behind it. There isn't. The best thing that we can do is just understand that, there are rules that we need to follow, whether you agree with them or not, and just wait for it to play out. That is it.
Yeah.
We're all fed up. That's the thing. We are all absolutely fed up. We want just normal lives and don't have to worry about, don't I have to wear a mask? Can't I stand near this person? But I think, we said this time last year, but hopefully within a year, it will be a little bit easier and things will be able to, the biggest thing is be able to actually plan something and it not feeling like that you have to make alternative plans as well.
Exactly.
That really sucks. Having to do that. Ethan, what's the nightlife like in Northern Ireland right now?
It's not like it was before COVID, obviously. It's still very much book a table before you go out to a club, or like New Year's plans, you have to book tables instead of everybody showing up and stuff. There's still, you got to wear masks. You have to sanitize your hands. I'm not sure if they check your temperature at the door, but I have seen a lot of places doing that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? It's very like polarizing. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of things you feel like you can't do, or a lot of things that you don't feel comfortable doing and stuff. And You know what I mean? It's very like closed down at the minute. And I know that there's a lot of live events that were supposed to happen at the end of this year, but they've already scheduled to summer of 2022. And
Jeez.
even then, I know a lot of people specifically don't feel entirely comfortable to even buy a ticket for next summer because we're not entirely sure if it's going to be put off for another year and all, you know what I mean?
I mean,
So it's just
worst case scenario, you will still get to keep your ticket and your money as well. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they will not do anything with your money. Your ticket will still be valid, but I totally
course,
understand
yeah.
people's concerns because
yeah,
they don't want to invest sum of money into something they're not going to be able to use, even if it's
exactly.
next year or maybe the year down the line. So obviously, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Scott,
the
what
times
about-
whenever,
Sorry,
but-
go for it. Go for it. It's fine.
yeah, the times whenever you could just get a ticket on social media for a local gig or even a bigger gig at a bigger venue for a weeks in advance, you know, that doesn't exist right now. It hasn't for the past 2 years. It's you're getting a ticket that might work in 6 months to a year's time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's no certainty, like you said, Skye.
Hmm.
You know?
Scott, what about London? You said something earlier about obviously
London-
some details.
It's not too far off to what Ethan said. London is, you can still book things. You don't know, I'll be honest, there's a lot of places where you don't need to wear a mask. Maybe in the next week or so, or probably even now, you will have to wear a mask in certain areas, but you can still plan things and go into restaurants and bars and whatnot, and there's no social distancing whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, you're becoming best friends with an absolute stranger because they're pretty much sat on your lap.
There never was social distancing, was there?
No. I
Yeah.
mean, look at a flight. You get on a flight and they tell you got a social distance in the line, and then you're sat right next to everybody on the plane. I mean,
How
you know what I
stupid
mean?
is that?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Ask EasyJet to do that when their seats are like that anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I
You're
mean?
basically sitting on
Yeah,
top of each other.
mate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Please don't breathe on
in
me.
Cyprus, even now in Cyprus, nightlife is booming.
Mm.
Really?
Every single club is open. People are, just,
Mingling.
you know what I mean? Like, just everyone's just up on each other's cases, right next to each other,
Fair
bump touching people, shouldering. You know what I mean? It's close. It's not like it used to be, and no one really cares except for a certain type of crowd, which I call them the safe liners. That they always drive on the safe lane, the sideliners or the safe laners, whatever you want to call them. That's what I call it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
If you stop at the traffic lights, there was a long queue, and there was a not so long queue. There's two lanes. They will go and queue up on the long queue because everyone's queuing up here, so I'm going to queue up here. It's those kind of people who don't have self initiative, so they can't really execute their very own decisions, so they follow the crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the very same people who follow what the government says. So if they tell them you got to get the fucking 4th jab or the 5th jab or the 6th jab, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, cool, let's go get it done. And then those are the very same people who wouldn't go out because they think they're going to get COVID and die.
Yeah.
2 years, you'd have been dead by now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would have been dead by now, but it's obviously I cannot really say anything because it's their choices. I'm just gonna have to respect.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Ethan, I wanted to ask you, I mean, because you've got a lot of experience within live music events and dealing with artists that perform live on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Do you think, and I've seen a lot of opinions and based on this question, but do you think when live performances come back, is it going to be what it used to be? Like, how different do you think it's going to be?
Well, I think it's a mixture of things. It could be a mixture of things. Like the music industry, it's very hard to get a one specific answer to it, but there's a couple schools of thought on it. It could be, I mean, live shows, especially for every musician, but particularly the indie musicians or the ones that are up and coming, live shows are the bread and butter. It's the best way to get people to see and hear you and get an experience of you all at once and make a little bit of money. Like you need that. Yeah. And because live shows have been cancelled so much, obviously whenever the venues do have the comfortability or have a gig performed to a larger audience, let's say without social distancing or whatever, they're going to put the higher up artists, ones that already have a much higher audience, ones that are going to make more money for the venue, they're going to have them come in first. So, I mean, that's that would make sense to me. I get that. It's you know, the live venue suffered as well, obviously, because they're losing their acts. But in the same breath, the up and coming artists, the people that do require a hell of a lot of bodies in a crowd, even if they're just opening for a band, to get an experience of them is what's going to define their career. It might pull in all the audience numbers that they need. It might get them a lot of fans and stuff. So they're going to be cut short. I think once the venues open up again, you know, they're going to get the higher ticket artists. They're going to get the higher ticket bands to come in, the ones that are going to pull in a greater crowd, and the little man's going to get cut out for it. I mean, it might resort back to normal after a while, but even still, who knows how long that could be. You know, and then another school of thought would be, because everybody's craved live music so much over the past 2 years, it might be the opposite. Maybe the venues will open up and artists will be flooding in, you know, managers will be flooding in to book them, and likewise an audience will be flooding in to see anybody. So it could go one of two ways, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just, we have to see, I guess, like we have been for the past 2 years. We just have to wait and see.
Absolutely.
You know,
I mean, Skye, when was the last time you went out for clubbing in London or outside London?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
In a while.
I'm not a big clubbing person anyway, but I've been in Soho through the summer, and that's a very clubby area, like where there's a lot of activity. So I would say around the summertime, especially during that heat wave, those evenings it was packed. You would never think there was a worldwide dangerous thing going around.
Because I'm going to come to a point, and the point is, I don't know about Ireland. What was it like in Ireland during those times, Ethan?
The same. You know, people were still flocking to bars and stuff. People were getting out as much as they could. You know, people would disregard what the government was saying because they'd had enough of it, and I understand that. They want to get out and have a good time, like, you know. So during the summer, where it was a lot hotter and there was better weather and there's a better vibe about the place, there was a lot of bodies, you know, packed out in the bars and the clubs, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
So would you guys say subconsciously we knew that this was the third lockdown was going to happen, the fourth, whatever number is now? Because
I would agree with that.
It's been like that for the last couple of years. Summer, let them out. Winter, keep them in.
Bring them back in. I knew it was gonna. I felt like it was gonna happen again. Like flu season comes in December time, Christmas time. We knew it was gonna happen.
Exactly.
You know,
my biggest concern, I would say, for all the musicians around the world, and not just the musicians, for the music industry itself, right?
Yeah.
Some people, some musicians or some music industry professionals, they still have faith that everything is going to go back to normal at some point. So they kept their businesses as they were without any changes or little to no changes, right? Yeah. Because that's how they run the business prior to whatever happened.
Yeah.
Right? So, but there's also a healthy amount of people and entrepreneurs, musicians, music industry professionals, whatever you want to call them. They've made drastic changes in their businesses, in the way they conducted business, in the way they hired, employed people, or sacked people, or whatever you want to call it. Would you say, hear me out now, would you say by the end of this whole period, we don't know when it's going to end? It might be next year, it might be 3-4 years down the line, we don't know. There's no telling what's going to happen, because in the beginning, I thought this whole thing was going to last a couple of months. I thought, you know what? Trump is here. He's going to tell everyone to finish it, because whatever Trump or America says goes, but people are going to follow and blah, blah, blah. It's almost been 2 years now. So I'm like, cool. This is going to carry on a little bit more, maybe. I don't know how long.
Yeah.
So do you think the music industry has already suffered a lot in general? Do you think people who suffered the most are going to change the way they approach their businesses, or they are still going to hope for the best and keep the way they approach business in the first place?
Do you know what? I mean, I'll be honest, I have spoken to several people, and this will be within major and independent labels, and they have said one thing in common that really stands out to me, which is very different to what I ever expected, especially from majors. But they said to me, when I would ask how has live events affected you, and things like that, and they would say, you know what, we've actually used the budget from
Yeah.
performance and put that into signing more artists. And the most common theme has been from around where lockdown was at its peak, TikTok was absolutely blowing up.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot more undeveloped artists have been signed because the budgets are, they're more, they're just expanding their budget and thinking, you know what, this person has potential. Whereas before, from my personal experience, it would be from, let's sign this person because they have something that is signed, so delivered, and there's no development involved. So I think that has been the biggest blessing, and I don't know how that will continue. We'll see. But I think that's an amazing thing that I really do hope continues, because that has been the biggest struggle, that unsigned artists are being pushed away based on the fact that they need a bit of TLC. But I think that's an amazing thing. Like, don't you guys think?
Absolutely.
I read a small article the other day, which this I mean, I've known this for a very long time, but still, for a certain reason, artists all around the globe, they still have this old and rock solid idea, which is almost unopened for any changing. They still think that they need a major label to achieve success.
Yeah.
What do you guys say?
I feel like in terms of a major label, I feel like a lot of the time the artists that entirely believe that it is a major label that will allow them to reach their true potential, or the success they have, this idea of success they have in their head, is actually a lack of understanding of what it is they could do for themselves.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of the time it's a big, there's a lot of money thrown behind it. Obviously with a major label, they have connections, they have a lot more money than an indie will. But if the artist could take the initiative to perhaps promote themselves, maybe do something a little outside the box to get, seen by as many people as possible, do certain things that a label would do for you anyway, like a major label. Like I said, on a smaller scale, there are things that an independent artist could easily do, even with an indie label or by themselves for that matter, 100%, to get the results that they actually, they want for themselves. Is that you don't need a major label. And a lot of the time, I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes here, but a lot of the time, the fine print in the major labels contracts, it's just, in my opinion, it's unreasonable. You know what I mean? You don't have any say. There's not much you can do about your royalties. There's not a lot you can, you know what I mean? They own a lot of it,
It's just, you sign your life away, don't you?
Exactly. A lot of the time, yeah.
And the thing is that I understand why there's so many artists that are, so attracted to Sony, Warner, these big labels, because it's the name, it's the brand.
Exactly.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be represented by that amazing name? But I completely agree with you, Ethan, because with these big names comes a lot of complications in some areas.
Yeah.
And what artists really need to understand is that the most important thing is that you're getting the treatment that you need and the development that you need.
Yeah.
And not all majors, but the majority of majors won't have that time to commit unless, they've signed you for amazing advance and you're there on their, priority list.
Yeah.
But I think that the best thing is a small team, and that doesn't have to be an independent label. That could be like a small management team.
Anything, just a group of like-minded people. Yeah.
Exactly. There's so many, companies out there, including us, Diverse Beats, that do stuff like that. And I think when you say they need to think outside the box, it's especially that. Like, look, where else can I go to advance my career and
Exactly.
focus on my music and not just the appearance side of being an artist.
Definitely, absolutely. Like you were saying with TikTok, like TikTok was blowing up during lockdowns. You know, that's because they didn't have any other resource. They couldn't go play a live show, so they did something. A lot of the time, it was something incredible, and they got the audience they deserved.
Exactly. What was it that like a lot of big artists did? They did like a worldwide live event, didn't they? Like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And they all kind of combined together. I don't know if it was on Facebook or YouTube. I can't remember, but that blew up.
Yeah.
But this whole thing actually, if anything, in my opinion, obviously it has been a curse, but it's also been a blessing.
Yeah.
In many ways.
If you figured out how to leverage it the best way possible.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are not strong in the mind, right? They sat down, they went through depression. I've heard a lot of people take their lives away, and rest in peace to those souls, beautiful people. You know what I mean? When I've heard any of those stories somewhere on social media, my heart ached. Because it's another soul got taken because of external reasons, not their doing. Of course, they went and committed suicide, but we don't know what they were going through. Musicians, normal humans, you know what I mean? Don't have to be a musician. But at the same time, if you was strong in the mind and you knew how to leverage this situation for the best way possible, so you can benefit from it, this also has been a massive blessing for those who knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say, I was one of those people, because I established Diverse Beats literally a month before everything kicked off and there was a lockdown.
Yeah.
So to me, it was instantly hiring few people who are willing to work, and then instantly diving into the world of business. Okay, cool. Here was people got money, people sitting at home. What do? Make music.
Yeah.
So now they had a lot of music to put out. And obviously we kept our prices as low as possible because we also didn't want to take the piss. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So we tried to help them at the same time, help R&M get out there as well. Yeah. Only today, just for today, we've received about 300 new subscribers to our mailing lists. That's, you know what I mean? That's house music, that's UK garage, that's bassline, there's drum and bass, there's a lot of genres that's out there, contemporary genres. We are getting really, really good traffic right now, and we're growing by the day. And I would like to share this with our subscribers and listeners. We may not have a lot right now, but still. But it's a process, and you have to appreciate every single moment of it. That's what I've learned. Now, my advice to musicians all around the globe, or any person that's listening to this podcast, not necessarily you need to be a musician, enjoy every single second of the process, because every single second that goes by, if you know how to pay attention to it, it teaches you something. And patience, my friends, is the key, and consistency, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
100%. And it kind of just, well, not kind of, it absolutely just proves that, I mean, it's important to get yourself out there physically, but the internet is the most powerful thing in the entire world. So of course, I mean, lockdown only just highlighted that even more than we already knew. And it just shows that even if you want a record deal, whether that's a major or independent or whatever, just get yourself out there in a smart way. Invest your resources in developing your craft, and things will naturally come to you. I mean, it's really not difficult to upload a few covers, and it doesn't have to be brand new covers of hit songs. Currently, it could be classics turned into your own version. That way it can stand out and you can still put out your own sound in a unique way. Absolutely. It's small things like that. And TikTok has become what it's become, because I mean, lockdown just nudged it even more, didn't it?
Definitely.
Totally.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of music purists out there that and musicians that might think, I know a lot of guys that are artists or producers, and they get really bogged down with certain specifics in a piece or an EP or whatever it is they're going to be releasing, and they just overwhelm themselves with small minor details that the average person might not even pick up on in the recording, and then they end up never releasing it, and they can't deal with it, and and then they're straight back to square one. They have to restart something, and then they bog themselves down with like overwhelmingly minor details. Like if you can create something that sounds good and get it in front of somebody, or get it to the ears or the eyes of somebody now using TikTok, as long as it sounds good, people aren't going to tell the difference whether it was produced in a major record label or, in your bedroom. You know what I mean? As long as it sounds good and you can get it in front of the ears and eyes of other people, that's enough. It's music at the end of the day,
Yeah.
That right there, what you just mentioned, Ethan, is one of the biggest problems in the music industry, and obviously in musicians. And that often starts with lack of self-esteem.
Oh yeah.
Which then turns into procrastination because you don't have faith in yourself. Now you're procrastinating. And then the whole thing combined together becomes a comfort zone. And now you start accusing other things, other people, saying, I'm here because of da, 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 da. No, you are in the very same spot that you was last year because of yourself. Nobody else. It's not COVID. It's not people. It's not anything. It's not your parents. It's not your girlfriend. It's not your this. It's nothing. It's you, right? Because a lot of people had gone out of their way to prove that COVID could have been beneficial.
Yeah,
it could have been beneficial if you knew how to use it. You were sat at home.
Exactly.
Look, this is what people are missing out on. You've had the greatest time of your entire fucking life. You were sat at home and you was getting paid for sitting at home. You know what I mean? It's bonkers to think about this is ever happening to anyone. Sometimes you go on holiday and don't get paid. You know what I mean?
You don't even get sick pay anymore sometimes.
You know what I mean? There's no sick pay. There's no holiday pay. You go and you're like, cool, I lost 2 weeks on my wages. Fuck it, I'm going to go on holiday. So you go on holiday, you try to enjoy, but you think about the pay that you're losing and you're like, fuck this, man. You know what I mean? Now, this thing happens. You get to sit at home. By the way, I'm getting angry right now, so take it easy. You sit at home for almost 2 years. You got your furlough money. Your rent is getting paid, and everything's being sorted out. You're sweet.
Yeah.
And you still complain. I don't get to leave the house. No, you're a lazy fucking bum. Get out of your comfort zone, man. Do something, please.
Yeah.
Please.
So the most important thing is that there's so many different ways to gain inspiration. And like you might have been stuck between the same four walls for how many months, but there's so many different passions that you can find. I mean, so many. And I discovered that through lockdown, I discovered my love for film soundtracks. And then I realized, hang on, this backs from when I was a child, where I was obsessed with Labyrinth with David Bowie. And that was the film that got me into music back then. I started investing more time in watching films because I had the time, and films with great soundtracks, and that inspired me, and that gained more creativity for me to put into my work. So you can find inspiration everywhere, and there's going to be days where you want to do nothing but just lay in bed. I get that. We've all had that. But if you really want to push yourself out of that, then do small things like watch a film with a soundtrack that you love, or listen to some old classic songs that you listen to, or like stuff that your parents listened to growing up. There's so many different ways.
I think like another important thing to mention would be like for any artist, any musician, anybody dabbling in any form of acting, or anyone doing anything artistic, I would say at the minute, a really important factor to take in would be to allow yourself to seem vulnerable, because I mean, we're all used to it now. We've been vulnerable to this virus for the past 2 years. Everybody's familiar with being vulnerable now, but if you can be vulnerable and appear genuine and try and be as genuine as possible through your music or through your art, whatever it is you're expressing, if you can do that through TikTok, I mean, that alone is such an easy way to connect with people. People will see you. They might not be into jazz, or they might not be into indie music or pop covers, but if you can really show your, you know, your genuinity through it, and show, like, maybe talk a bit about yourself, let people get to know you. You can talk about your vulnerabilities. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and that will connect with people that might be watching you through a screen at the other side of the world. You know, there's a lot of ways to connect with people, especially through the likes of TikTok and stuff. You just have to allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Definitely.
You know?
Skye, a movie soundtrack recommendation from me to you. You know the movie Interstellar?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Soundtrack of that movie by Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer, yeah.
Yes.
I listen to that when I'm writing my book. Just the soundtrack alone.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a great soundtrack.
Oh my God. I love Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
I think the greatest, if not one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I agree. Oh, just
that's a good one.
Yeah.
This is crazy. He's on the next level. I give him that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a movie called Beware of the Dog. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who did the soundtrack yet, but the music in that is fantastic. I watched it last night. The music in that's brilliant. It's very subdued, but it's very deep, like, you know what I mean? It makes you feel a lot from very, like, minimal instruments and everything involved in it. Give that a listen if you get a chance.
Yeah, I will. I definitely
It's a lot. It's intense at times.
Definitely. It's funny how a soundtrack can change the entire picture you're looking at.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine Scream. Remember the thriller movie Scream?
Oh yeah.
You know, the one with the mask, you know, killing people.
Yeah.
Imagine a Tom and Jerry soundtrack behind it.
Yeah, it wouldn't have the same effect with it.
So it is crucially important, the soundtrack. Really important.
I mean, everybody knows Jaws from the soundtrack Jaws. We all know that shallow. You know what I mean? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Everybody watching at home will know exactly what you're talking about.
Was that also Hans Zimmer who made it? Maybe not.
You know, I couldn't tell you. It's definitely worth a Google though.
No, I think the person who filmed Jaws also filmed E.T. and also filmed Saving Private Ryan. I forgot the guy's name. Very famous guy. But he filmed all three of these movies.
Yeah.
Forgot his name. Anyway, when I remember, I'll tell you guys.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, to wrap it up for today about this topic, what would your recommendations be for the artists who are preparing for the next lockdown? Let's hope that will not happen, but from what it looks like, there's a high possibility that it might happen. What would you say for them to do during this lockdown? Ethan, start with you.
I would say to any artist that's in fear of going into another lockdown, the same four walls, maybe feeling a bit, you know, vulnerable or depressed, I would say let your vulnerability or even your depression show through your music.
Yeah.
You know, let that be a part of your journey right now and let that be reflected in your music. I feel like that'll give you a really interesting perspective of not only yourself, but your own music. And it'll allow a massive audience to see you for, you know, something more personal, because it might be over TikTok that they're going to see you instead of a live event.
Definitely. Skye?
I would say find new ways to inspire yourself. And I want to really push for artists and just musicians in general to find something that inspires them that is not music related. And for instance, my one through lockdown was spirituality, meditation. Like I know it doesn't sound spiritual me saying this, but I fucking love it because it just creates this whole kind of new dynamic and new way that you see life. And I think that's beautiful. And that has helped me form my creativity with music. So I think finding a different passion, something that inspires you that is not music related, will somehow come together, because creative people, we're just general creatives and we just love to kind of mishmash everything together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Good point.
Definitely.
What about you, Serhat?
Yeah.
I mean, my 2 cents on this topic would be, if in the event of a new lockdown, please do all the things you thought you wish you did in the first and second lockdown,
Yeah, that's good advice.
whatever they were. Because now the universe or the governments of the world are presenting you with another chance.
Yeah.
And there's a higher chance that you're going to get another furlough money, you're going to get to sit at home, vice versa. Maybe you might not even be as strict as the previous lockdowns, and maybe it might be, we don't know.
Yeah.
If it happens, just do what you said you wish you did on the lockdown 1 and number 2. And maybe this time you'll have another chance to make up for those times that you missed, because you're going to have a lot of free time. Don't just sit there, don't bum around, don't just go up and down on your Instagram or your Facebook, oh, like they go, you know what I mean? Just do what you think you should have done in the first place, okay? And that will be my 2 cents.
I would like to just add on to my one very quickly. Another one would be, please, please, please prioritize your mental health. Listen to your body, listen to your mind. If you don't want to be creative, that's okay. If it lasts a day, a week, a month, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're delaying your progress. If anything, it means that you're speeding up your progress because you're resting your body.
Yeah, of course.
That's a very good one. Very good one, definitely.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you for joining, guys. That was a great podcast. Definitely
thanks for having me.
amazing. And it took about 40 minutes, but I felt like 4 minutes. So that means it was good. It was good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was really good. To anybody who's watching this, please like and subscribe and share the video to people who you might think that might benefit from this. Okay. And then until next time, see you later. Take care.
Bye.